Case 1 Kayla Berg. As per the Charlie Project, Kayla was last seen on August 11, 2009. That evening she was with a 24-year-old friend, Kevin J. Kilcheski. He drove her around her hometown of Antigo, Wisconsin, and the pair allegedly smoked marijuana sometime between 9 and 11 p.m. Kilcheski dropped Kayla off at her boyfriend's home in Wausau, Wisconsin, about a 40-minute drive from Antigo. He stated the house, which is across the street from the Colonial Manor nursing home, had all the lights turned off and it looked as if no one was home. Kilcheski Naviri actually saw Kayla go inside it. She has never been heard from again. Kayla wasn't reported missing for 6 days because her parents, who are separated, each thought she was in the other one's home. Her parents had a fairly open living arrangement for her and her younger brother, and they often traveled back and forth by themselves between one parent's house and another. Kayla, her brother, and her mother had moved to Texas earlier in 2009, but the two children were homesick, and after just 3 months their mother took them and moved back to Wisconsin. Authorities initially believed Kayla was a runaway, and they stated her friends appeared evasive, as if they were trying to conceal her whereabouts. Police began to reconsider the runaway theory as weeks passed without any contact. Her boyfriend denied having seen her the day of her disappearance. He is 4 years older than Kayla, and her mother didn't approve of the relationship because of the age difference. The house Kayla went to on the night of her disappearance had actually been confirmed, and its occupants had moved out while the building was being renovated, but it's unclear whether she knew about this. In October 2009, Kilcheski was arrested and charged with second-degree reckless endangerment, a felony. This is related to substance use with Kayla on the night she was last seen. The charge was dismissed in July 2011. However, Kilcheski hasn't been charged or named as a suspect in her actual disappearance, and he is no longer cooperating with the investigation. Kayla is described as a passionate gymnast who is looking forward to being on her school's team. She didn't own a cellular phone or a computer at the time of her disappearance and apparently didn't use the internet very much. She has no history of running away from home, and it's uncharacteristic of her not to keep her parents informed of her whereabouts. Although there is no evidence of foul play in her case, her mother believes she was abducted. Her case remains unsolved. Ops comment: I tried searching this case on Reddit so I could comment my thoughts, but all the posts wouldn't let me comment, maybe because of how old the posts were. Since she is still missing, I think it is good to put it out there again. I have been following this case and recently listened to the Trace Evidence podcast, and some things caught my attention, so I had to get them off my chest. For Kevin to say he dropped Kayla off in Wausau when it's known 1 week before Kayla and her friends went to visit Miguel at his new place, and she even spent the night. Why would she ask to be dropped off at the old place when she knew he didn't live there? Also, Kevin's phone was turned off right after he called her at 9 p.m. to pick her up until 2 p.m. the next day. So another weird part of the story, we are just supposed to assume his phone died when he picked her up right away. Kayla mentioned to her friend working at McDonald's she was going to drive around with Keen and smoke some pots. What if they did other drugs and Kayla has a reaction? What if Kevin put the moves on her and she fought him? If Kevin sounds like the guilty party here. Personal opinion: she definitely did not ask to go to an abandoned house in Wausau. 1000%. Comment 1: Kevin is guilty as F. Probably made sexual advances towards her like any 24-year-old man who provides weed to a 15-year-old girl. Scumbag. She rejected his advances, so he killed her. Comment 2: adult men with teenage girls are not boyfriends, they are predators. Comment 3: interesting that the investigators list Miguel as a person of interest while they do not list Kevin as one. Even who cadaver dog signal his car and his parents' property. Sounds like to me Kevin should be suspect number 1. Case 2: James Charles Stanford disappeared after telling his family he wanted to go to Texas or California to join a convent. He has never been heard from again. What happened? Agency stated James Charles Stanford disappeared on May 1, 1971, but there was a yearbook photo of James in the juniors section of 1972. It's not uncommon for missing children to have the missing date wrong, as people can misremember, but this clearly pushes the date by months. It's been theorized by many who study old cases that Stanford could be Clinton John Doe 1972, as he fit the physical description of the John Doe and his items James would have had when he hitchhiked. Pay stub from the uncle's workplace: I don't believe he ever made it to a convent, and find it more likely he met with foul play before he could go where he wanted. He might have gotten a ride with the wrong person or got ran over while hitchhiking. In any cases, wouldn't surprise me if his body is a John Doe and we just can't make the connection. James didn't seem to have a clear idea on where he wanted to go, which makes it seem like his body could be anywhere. Unexpected Clinton John Doe 1972 could be that connection, or something else. What do you think happened to James Charles Stanford? Did he actually go to a convent and could still be alive, or do you suspect foul play? James would be 70 years old. Edit: I forgot to mention the living relatives' statements, but here their statements goes. It didn't let me add this before. James Charles is my grandma's brother. We send in her DNA to test to see if it's a match, but the items in his pocket, the pay stub, is the place my uncle would have worked at. We really think this is him. Thank you. He had a girlfriend. Her father and brother took him farther out of St. Louis. They say he wanted to go to California. We don't believe this to be true. They say they dropped him off on the side of the road and they never saw him again. My grandmother saw him a few days before he disappeared. It was his birthday. We think either the girlfriend's family hit him and ran or he was walking down the highway and got hit. Comment 1. Could he have meant a hippie commune instead of convent? Comment 2. It was not uncommon back then for pictures to be taken in the spring to be used in the next year's book. I remember getting ours at least once in the following fall because the printing times were so much slower then. Comment 3. Wait, the John Doe had a paycheck from a place that Charles worked. How could it not be him? Case 3. Burlington, Vermont teen Celinda Jean Weinegar went missing in 1979. A possible sighting at her father's funeral in 1981 remains unconfirmed. On March 21, 1979, Celinda Jean Weinegar was last seen at her family's home in the 100 block of Forest Street in Burlington, Vermont. She told her family she was going to visit a friend but never returned. In the months leading up to her disappearance, Celinda had reportedly started spending time with a new crowd and experimenting with marijuana. Her family received a series of threatening phone calls which only stopped after they changed to an unlisted telephone number. Shortly after she vanished, the family received an anonymous call claiming that Celinda has been murdered and her body dumped in the Winooski River. Authorities did not search the river at the time and the tip was never substantiated. In 1985, one of Celinda's sister's friends claimed to have found a clump of blonde hair while fishing in the river, though it's unclear if this was ever investigated further. Despite these troubling details, law enforcement believes Celinda likely ran away voluntarily. Over the years, there were several unconfirmed sightings. One relative claimed to have seen her standing quietly in the back of a church during her father's funeral in 1981, but this sighting, like the others, remains unverified. Celinda was a student at Burlington High School and the youngest of 6 children in a devout Roman Catholic family. Her next oldest sibling is 13 years her senior. Both of her parents are now deceased, but her siblings continue to search for answers. Comment 1. How frustrating that the authorities did not search the river and just chalked the disappearance up to the old classic, you know, teenagers, they always run away voluntarily. I have to wonder if the whole sister's friend's clump of hair sighting was maybe a little white lie as a desperate attempt to get the investigators to actually take this disappearance seriously and help. Comment 2. For some reason this made me think of Lorraine Ron's similar age, similar time period, only a few hours apart in terms of location, and both supposedly fallen into a bad crowd before their disappearances, smoking weed, drinking, etc. Comment 3. It would be interesting to know how strict her home life was. The fact it was Catholic does give an idea that she could have left if she was pregnant or dating someone her family didn't approve of. Case 4. In 1990, twin sisters Danette and Jeanette Milbrook leave a gas station in downtown Augusta, Georgia, and are never seen again. Danette and Jeanette Milbrook were 15 years old but were excited for their upcoming Sweet 16th, which was just 2 weeks away. So the morning of March 18, 1990 started off like any other Sunday. The family attended church together that morning, then afterwards headed back home for lunch. Their mother, Mary Louise Sturgis, sent the twins to go pick up the family's order at church's chicken. The twins did inform their mother that a white van had followed them for a portion of their walk. At lunch, the twins mentioned they needed bus fare for the upcoming school week. According to Shanta, their younger sister, their mother told them to ask their godfather for the bus fare. So after lunch, the twins left their home and walked to their godfather's house, which was only a short walk away. The twins were greeted by their godfather, and not only did he give them the bus fare, but he also gave them a few extra dollars to get some treats for their walk home. According to statements made by family members during their walk back home from their godfather's house, Danette and Jeanette had stopped at both a cousin's house and their older sister's house on the way back, asking if somebody could accompany them back home. The family found this odd as the sisters knew the area very well, but more importantly, they had walked together alone countless times before. When the twins didn't arrive home in a timely manner, their mother began calling around town asking if anyone has seen them. Their mother eventually called the nearby Pump and Shop gas station, as that was a location the family frequently visited. The gas station attendant the mother spoke to was familiar with the twin sisters and had seen them come in together earlier that day at around 4:30 p.m. The attendant could not remember which way the teens walked off or if they half gotten into a vehicle after they left. When asked if the twins were acting strangely, the attendant said that they were acting completely normal and nothing seemed off. This was the last time they were seen. Later that night, their mother called the authorities to report the twins missing. However, the authorities told their mother that they had to wait a full 24 hours before filing a missing persons report. So as soon as it hit the 24-hour mark, their mother called back and filed a missing persons report. So instead of a search and investigation, Starting on the 18th, the day of the disappearance, authorities refused to help until well into the 19th. An officer came out to their residence to collect information, and that was about it. To put it simply, the authorities seemed to care. They did not partake in an in-depth search, they didn't canvass the neighborhood, they didn't even formally interview the last person that saw them, gas station attendant. They made it clear from the beginning that they viewed the girls as runaways, even though there wasn't any evidence to support that. In 1993, Richmond County authorities officially closed the case, categorizing it as a runaway case. Authorities told Louise Sturgis' mother that since they would be 17 years old now, they couldn't tell the girls to come back home anyways. In 2013, the Richmond County Sheriff's Office was now under new leadership, and they quickly reopened the case. In 2017, Louise Sturgis' Stanta and the eldest sister gave DNA samples to authorities, but despite the case being reopened and given more attention, the case is still cold. Op thoughts: this is easily one of the most frustrating cases to look into, considering how inept the police were. Many experts and investigators downright categorize the police work as incompetent and are having racial bias. It's important to note that the Millbrook twins, who were African American, lived in a predominantly African American neighborhood in low-income area. To this day, downtown Augusta basically has this same demographic, despite the medical district and university being almost world renowned and state of art. The surrounding area has a substantial homeless population and abandoned houses stretching down multiple streets with a higher crime rate. These same problems existed during the 1990s as well. I wish I could give further details surrounding the case, but the police actually lost the case files on 2 separate occasions. The family was also notified by authorities at one point that the twins were found and returning to the family, which obviously did not occur. They were also told the twins were placed in the foster care system, which upon further investigation the authorities rescinded the assertion. In 2013, under new leadership, the Richmond County Sheriff's Department did admit that the case was severely mishandled, which is why they reopened it. The family believes had the police department taken the investigation seriously from day one, they would have found and retrieved the girls, or at the very minimum found out what happened and prosecuted those responsible. The family has always believed foul play occurred, and it's insane to realize it took the police department 23 years to acknowledge foul play was a possibility and likely the result of what happened. Note: this is my first write-up, so I hope I did a halfway decent job. I have read almost every other write-up on this sub, so I know how amazing the submissions are, especially with providing details, but recently I actually drove past the exact location the twins were last seen at. It's now a different gas station. Shane and I wanted to bring a spotlight to this case despite the magnitude of a set of twins suddenly disappearing. This is not a well-known case, so at minimum I wanted to bring some attention to it in this sub. Comment 1: it seems somewhat safe to assume they might have been abducted. The white van following them plus looking for someone else to walk with them, not wanting to walk alone, definitely suggests foul play is at hand. Those poor girls, it's possible they were dead before the police even allowed the family to file a missing persons report. Comment 2: the Fall Line podcast does a deep dive on the Millbrook twins and have been working to get their case worked on again. It is definitely worth a listen. Comment 3: the waiting 24 hours before filing a missing person report was mostly standard at that time, especially for teens and young adults and adults. Additionally, nothing like the Amber Alert existed at the time. However, none of that is an excuse for the police to just let the investigation slide.